Perfect. Okay, so if anybody else comes in, then they can just pop in.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Phil, take it away.
Awesome. So you'll be able to see waiting rooms, Megan, will you?
Yes, yeah, I can see the waiting room.
Okay, awesome. There's somebody else.
Oh, sorry, I'm just realizing I called you Chris too, and your name's Phil.
I know, I didn't want to correct you, Rebecca. It was a bit awkward, but I'm glad we're there already that we can tag each other.
Phil Bradley and then Chris Spearman. I must have got you confused, so sorry.
That's all right. You are already forgiven. Never worry. And hey, Catherine, thanks for taking time as well. So that's recording now. I think we're good to go. So nice to meet you all.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know me, I'm Phil Brady. I'm originally from Dublin, and I moved up here in 2014 with my girlfriend. We've since adopted a cat. We were meant to be married twice by now. Because of COVID last year, we've had to reschedule a couple of times. But it's so lovely to get to speak to you today. And thanks for taking the time and not sitting in pubs or beer gardens looking for the sweet pints, so I've heard, but people are craving since before COVID. So I how do I describe myself? So I'm a like a leadership coach, but how I would make sense of that is for anybody who actually just wants to lead more in their lives, they're like my ideal client, and they're the kind of people that I love working with. And I'm on the course with Lenny at the moment doing the personal training or fitness instructing course, and just loving it. And I'll be able to refer to that throughout. But I'm kind of going to cover when I wrote out Being Who You Are, it was part of the content. The other pieces underneath here that you'll see on the slide, motivation, resilience, stress, and physiology, are actually what it's about. But underpinning each of those is actually about authenticity. And actually, when we are more ourselves, we're actually better able to be motivated, better able to be resilient, less stressed, and better able to understand how our physiology impacts our ability to perform. And I'm so happy to be interrupted. I'm so happy to ask to have questions. I'm precious about nothing. So everything here, if you think it's wrong, I would love to hear something else. Rory, I know that you'll tell me if I'm wrong anyway, and Sean, you will too. But just permission to everyone. I can talk to myself for hours. I love this stuff. I would rather it's a conversation. So maybe just permission to ask questions, have a conversation. Let's make this as useful for you as possible. I've delivered this talk a couple of times too. So I just want to meet people and talk to you and try and offer one or two things that might make a difference. But there's lots behind each of these slides, and I can talk to it forever. So just an invitation, please interrupt and feel free to do that, okay? And then the other thing is it's being recorded, but just like, let's jump right in. Permission to be candid and permission to just bring your full self and be vulnerable. And if there's things that come up, I can handle whatever you bring. Just trust me with that. And it'll make it really impactful then as well. But again, just thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time. When I was younger, I wanted to be a motivational speaker. So I started learning about personal development when I was 13. So 2000, I started reading books by Tony Robbins and Jack Canfield and this kind of thing. And I always wanted to be that guy on the stage who motivated and inspired people. And after hearing him talk, they're jumping around and they're clapping in the air and they're running off and achieving all their dreams. But actually, I thought about motivation absolutely upside down. I can never do that for people. It's the wrong thinking. I can never create. If the perfect conditions exist for you, well, then you're better able to achieve everything possible for yourself. So I used to think of motivation like this. I used to think if you were motivated, then you would do everything that you needed to do. If the perfect conditions existed, then I would challenge myself. Then I would do whatever it is that I wanted to do. Then I would make progress. But actually, it's upside down. When you take action, when you commit to something, when you are brave and courageous, you actually build a capability and then you are confident. It's not ever ahead of time. You build confidence as you're building and flying the plane, not ahead of takeoff. And that's sometimes a little bit scary, but it's counterintuitive. We always think, no, just when I'm confident, I definitely will do that. Actually, it's the other way around. And the 4 C's of confidence, if it's helpful to kind of share as well. I don't have it on a slide, but I can list it afterwards. Commitment, so commit to something. Courage, you will feel uncomfortable. Capability, you will build and become better. And then confidence, you will feel able to do it. And those 4 C's, I only learned it last week. And that's why I'm kind of happy to share it anyway. Like that, I learn every day. And I just thought that that was useful. But with that motivation piece, just to flip it in your mind, actually, the perfect conditions may never exist. If we waited for them, we may be waiting forever and never haven't taken action, never haven't achieved anything we wanted, or never made the progress. So it's an invitation. Yeah.
There's people in the waiting room.
Oh. And you can't admit them there, is it?
No, I'm not the host.
That's okay. I'm going to kind of make you co-host. And hello, Paul. And
let's take you to the other car. You're gonna come too?
And others who joined. You're really welcome. Thanks for taking time. I'll try and keep an eye on the waiting and then just to make sure.
Yeah, I'm messaging everybody now who was supposed to be on. So I'll let you know if they're in the waiting room.
That's okay. Thanks very much.
Sorry. Thank you.
Don't be sorry. That's okay. So instead, and what I've heard as well from Patty Joe and from Lenny as well, is when you start at the course or start with the gym, you're given this book, and absolute transparency. Lots of where I think I know stuff is actually stolen from this book. It's just amazing. But actually, when we think about motivation, it's not necessarily that you may lack motivation, but actually it's clarity. And developing that clarity over a couple of things that I'll share now can make a massive difference and actually increase your motivation or increase your appetite for taking action anyway, even if you're not motivated. And that's some of the things that I definitely think can make a big difference. Again, maybe just to pause, any reactions, any thoughts? Has anybody read this?
I'm currently making my way through it, Phil.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I read it. Changed my life.
Change your life. Okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, you're right, and it's the actual clarity that it provides, because like over the years, like, I've built up like really good habits, but I mean, it took time. But even being able to go do like a wee bit of like habit stacking, you know, it's like, right, well, I'll do this if I do this, but also like, it's just because I used to be a very, like, I still am a goal orientated person, but I used to just get to the goal and then be like, right, what next? Do you know? But it's just, you know, being able to, I think that definitely like clears a whole lot of stuff up. But also for me, it's like, well, I need to get back into running, like after injuries and stuff. Well, actually, I need to sort out my systems, like get my systems in place. Do you know? So I actually find it really useful.
Yeah. And it's back to the Jocko Willink quote of discipline equals freedom. We think that having systems may restrict us, but actually it frees us up where we can play within that structure. Any other comments or reactions? I think, was it Jim, you said you were reading it as well?
Yes, Philip, I've just got it in front of me here and making my way through it.
Nice.
Loving it. I trained as a life coach myself, although I work as a therapist, as a counsellor, and I find that even bringing, you know, I love what you said right at the start about not being sort of precious about anything. I've always held that view, always open to learning. And I think trying to implement, I think something Fiona was saying as well, just about small changes as you go along, you stack up the good habits, or try to anyway. Now, I'd love to say it's always in straight lines, but it isn't. It's back and forward like a yo-yo, or up and down like a yo-yo, but getting there, I think.
Yeah, and you'll have a useful lens to be able to offer people in the coaching where you can help them get well, but you can also help them move forward and make progress too. I know a couple of people that are counselors that have done similar.
Yes.
And it's just profound, the two frames that you can benefit the people that you're working with. That's awesome.
It's common to any position from very different perspectives. Counselling historically about the past and coaching about the future.
Exactly right. And in my work as a coach, I should have said maybe like I interact with leaders daily, ranging from people who run 300-400 person companies globally to people running $2 billion business groups within like one of the biggest financial companies in the world. And in my work to develop myself, I've gone the coaching route, but I've also started paying attention to that kind of psychotherapy, bioenergetics, all these kind of ways of paying attention to trauma and how to move people through that, because I want to get deeper in my work. And if you show up, no matter what happens, I'll be able to offer you a useful tool or something that may just shift your thinking. And so I love that to hear that, Jim. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Rory, you were saying making your way through it as well. Do you want to share anything about it?
Just finding the whole like concept of systems rather than goals really, really, really fascinating. Because I fell under that trap a few times. Like, you know what I'm doing, Phil, in terms of the stunt register stuff. And you just set these goals and it does take you a long time to get them. And then you think, well, the goal's unachievable. It's not that the goal's unachievable. It's just the system that you're using doesn't suit that. So by making those tiny micro adjustments, eventually you'll get to that goal.
Nice. It's like saying, I wish I won the lotto and never doing the lotto, right?
Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if it's not part of your system, it'll never happen. So why wait for luck to actually just be presenting itself? Just make yourself lucky by prepping or creating the systems then to make success a really likely outcome.
That's right. You got to be in it to win it, man.
Exactly right. Not to go and encourage lotto ticket buying. That wasn't the antidote there.
Gambling help as well, Phil.
And any other thoughts before I move on? Does that make sense? The quote, I guess, that kind of, if you get clear, it actually unmuddles the path. And so it's easier then to say, actually, I can see it clearly. It's these three things that I need to pay attention to. What's most important? This one. I'll just do that. So simple, but it makes such a difference. And what can also happen is we get so overwhelmed by possibilities that we actually, the easier response is to freeze or do nothing because it's so overwhelming. Whereas if we get really clear on, actually, this is the path, that reduces. And I also think that this is really useful. And I try to find pictures that summarize what I think, because I could do all of this with just pictures, but some of the text is helpful. But the way I think about it is, if you get clarity over, so this is current state on the left, future state on the right. I sometimes imagine if you get really clear on how like heavy or just weighed down you could be with some of the things that are holding you back, and you can release or let go of or just undo some of the stories. But if you get super clear on what it's costing you of not moving is one part. The second part is, if you get super clear on what you could move towards, I imagine that's the shift from being really heavy and weighed down to actually being able to jump on a trampoline, but feeling light and feeling that kind of more vibrant and energized rather than kind of heavy with stuff. And I think that getting clarity of that, it's not just the benefit that you will gain, it's the cost of staying still, because there's a cost to that. And sometimes we don't pay enough attention to that. And if we do, that can increase our ability to move as well. And we use an innovation framework at work, and it's called sell painkillers, not vitamins. Right? We're more likely to take a painkiller. I don't take vitamins. I'm more likely to take a paracetamol or an ibuprofen if I have a headache, though. Right? So if you get super clear on this, what it's costing you, and what's possible in the future, it can make a massive difference to motivation as well, because you're really clear on the cost and you're really clear on the benefit. And this is why coaching works. You get so clear on these things because you're unmuddling the noise that you can see the path forward. And it just is easy, not kind of heavy or difficult. So this is slightly complicated, but I promise it's really easy to read. If we just start at the top with the pictures, right? I sometimes imagine that actually when we're muddled, it's like a muddy glass of water. It's not clear. We can't really see what we want or what the goals that we want to set or the systems that we need to succeed. where actually getting clarity over some of those things can be really helpful. If we also create that future vision of our bigger, better future that we want to create, that can help us. And how we get there, I haven't found anything better, is 1% better every day. Just commit to 1% better every day. That's all you have to do. It doesn't have to be a 0 to hero. It must go from now to speaking in front of 1,000 people. 1% better every day literally compounds, because your 1% is on 101 tomorrow. Then it's on 101.1, I think. I'm really bad at maths. I shouldn't have done that formula. But it makes a massive difference. It also feels easier to move. You don't have to commit to overhauling everything that you do. You just have to take micro actions consistently. And that's why Fiona, you were saying about your systems and your habits and stacking them over time, and now it's easy, or it's resulted in a benefit. Would you back up me in saying that it's useful to do that 1%, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, like for me, I just did it sort of like small steps. It's like build it up gradually. Now everything, like I have I'm a real routine person as well, and it's like my mornings are like sort of the same sort of thing. But I mean, it's all sort of second nature to me now. It's like I just do it, and if I don't do it, like I notice the difference. Like, for example, like over the past year, I put like a real focus on like recovery and really like looking after, like doing more mobility, looking after like my muscles, like sort of training smarter, and now I'm actually like reaping the benefits of it. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely I would say don't try and like do too much at like one time, because you're obviously more likely to fail, and then it just gets like overwhelming and you're just like, okay, I can't do it all. But yeah, for me it was definitely sort of starting small and just continuously sort of like adding to it. And then obviously like joining hybrid and stuff over the last 2 years, there's been sort of a lot where like I've learned there, and obviously with the mobility, learning the importance of it and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely been sort of like just building on it sort of gradually has really made a difference.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Does this make sense?
No, I'm actually quite, oh sorry. I'm actually quite similar with Fiona, like the morning routine side of things, and like stacking habits in the morning. Also from listening to like Lenny's podcast, and him and Steve were talking a lot about what they do in the morning. I find like instead of rushing out the door every morning, like get up that bit earlier. Yeah, you'll be tired when you first get out of bed, but you get so much done and it's so worth it.
Nice, Rebecca. And I think is it Ellie? Were you going to share?
No.
That's okay. You're welcome. And again, I can send out these slides afterwards if that's helpful. These are just some of what I think would be helpful. So that's why I've documented them, I guess, in the deck. But if I go to the next one, so it's just an invitation to start. Starting can be 1%. That's good. Like good is good enough. This is always the hardest part, but it's always the part that is exhilarating. You need a little bit of courage, but it's the best feeling ever when you start making progress. And the analogy is build a plane as you're flying it. Don't prep for or wait for perfect conditions. It's okay to start, and it's okay to build as you go. You will learn and you will adapt and you build capability along the way, and that's okay. These aren't my feet, but it was a good image to share. And then we get into some of the kind of stuff that I've been paying a lot of attention to for personal interest, but also just because I know that it's been tough for people over the last couple of months. And I can share like a personal example where a couple of years ago, a really close family member had a number of like psychotic episodes. And I've seen where these things go really wrong firsthand. And I care deeply about it. It's in my bones. And Rory and Sean, you'll know this, that like I live this stuff. I really care deeply about it. And I just wanted to offer a couple of things that I think would be useful to proactively and potentially reactively equip you to recover, but also how to kind of build your toolbox for things that can make a massive difference to your well-being as well. Because well-being as a word feels like it's oh, there's something wrong with me if I'm focused on my well-being. Actually, these underpin performance, and leaders that are really good, that's actually what they do. They just don't realize it. We just have different language to frame it. So that's why I wanted to share some of the things. When I think about resilience, I used to think the people that were the most resilient were the people that took on the most. But actually what I did is reframe it. It's this, it's not about withstanding more. It's actually about recovery and recovering better. So when I see somebody take on 15 projects, I'm just making it up in a kind of project type work, they may be taking on that much work, but they're probably really good at recovering when they're off. And if they're not, they will burn out over time. And I'll show you a graph that can kind of not prove it, but just show you what that looks like. So actually recovery, as you've said, it's so important to build into any goals or plans for progress that we have. If we don't, we will limit our progress over time because we will kick into some things that just aren't helpful. Proactively, this is a really good model for well-being. Please add these kind of things to your toolbox. Jim, you'll know about this. I hope this is a UK model for well-being.
The Take 5 Steps, yeah.
It's very good. There are others. I really like this one, and I really like the language. Jim, do you want to give a demo of this?
Well, I just, when we talk in mental health, it's about connection, about staying in touch with people, connecting with people, being active, you know, getting to the gym, going for a walk, or taking on an activity to try and learn, you know, learn something new if we can. We talk about learning every day. If we're out walking in the park, the Falls Park or Arvo Park or wherever it may be, take notice of the environment around us. And the fifth one about giving. When we give, we feel good as people when we give to others. So I think it's the combination of each of the 5 steps to well-being, and it's a great tool, Philip, as you just said. It's a great tool.
Thanks for doing my work. I'm going to take a half day, Jim. This is great. But it's so true. It's really helpful as a toolbox. I add these things into my days. One of the things for Connect is I have a question in one of the journals, and I'll talk about questions in a little bit of time. And one of them is, who could I surprise with a note, gift, or sign of appreciation? And I send people messages that I haven't spoken to in a while, but somebody will always come to mind. And you just set up that connection. You let somebody know that you were thinking of them and that you appreciate them. And not only is it kind of give, but actually it's connect. You've connected with them. They feel a sense of connection, but you're also making somebody feel awesome. And it's just been brilliant over the last couple of weeks, being able to do that for people. So just an invitation to test that. Test it tomorrow morning or test it right now. Who could I surprise with a note, a gift, or a sign of appreciation? And somebody will come to mind as you think about that. With learning, like Jim said as well, progress feels awesome. We think of learning as sitting in a class and listening to somebody like me talk for an hour and dumping content at us. But I taught my family how to juggle, and I was doing this yesterday on a conference call, but they couldn't see me. I taught myself how to juggle, and it was the most fun I've ever had with my family. Learning is fun. Learning feels good. Progress feels unbelievable. And you will then feel better about yourself because you're becoming better. With active, you're all members of Hybrid. You know what it feels like after a workout. It feels awesome. And I can show you one of the things that I think is linked to it as well later on. Noticing is just back to that gratitude and kind of awareness of the moment rather than just caught up in our minds. One of the flips that I tell people all the time now is just wiggle your toes. Just wiggle them, see what it feels like. You haven't noticed that they were there before, but now you do. It's just about shifting your attention. And then with giving, it's good to give. People need it at the moment. We need to do it. It's really helpful. Has anybody seen this before? This is the stress performance curve. Stress is not necessarily a bad thing. The amount of stress that I can take on is also relative in comparison to somebody like my family member who is not able to take on that much stress. Little things stress this person out. Very different to me, who can take on quite a lot. My uncle can take on an unbelievable amount of stress. So it's all relative. So it's not fair to compare. Don't compare. Just know that your own stress is your own stress. And it can also be a mental thing. So our perception of the thing. So me speaking to you today, Some people would be massively stressed by that. I see it as quite exciting because I've done it so many times. I just get to have fun with people and talk about interesting things. So I see it totally different. So it doesn't stress me out. I was a little bit nervous because I want to do a good job and I want to just equip you with some useful things. But it's just to show that certain things can stress us out very differently. A little bit of stress is good, but it's probably boring because it's not challenging us enough. We get to a stage where it's like, no, this is well within my capability. So that's the comfort piece. Then we get into where stress is actually a good thing, this kind of stretch. We're at that kind of Goldilocks zone, which I think it talks about in Atomic Habits as well, where it's like, this is the perfect stretch. My capabilities are good, but the challenge is just pushing me to my limits. And that feels really good. We feel like we're kind of living up to our potential a little bit more, and we're growing and making progress. When we tip over, though, into strain or crisis, our performance will actually suffer. And so I just wanted to show this so you have awareness of what this is like, and some of the languages to describe when it goes too far. This is where recovery comes in. At this point, start recovery. And I'll show you a couple of techniques, and I'll be able to show you the science of it as well, which is unbelievable. And it's fueled some of my learning recently, which is cool. Does that make sense, talking through this? Any reactions or thoughts? Good to keep going. And I said about attention earlier on as well, and about the power of questions. And I'm going to ask you a question in a second, and your attention will not have been on it. But this is just to show you, this is why I love coaching as well. Coaching is really about questions, not necessarily answers. One of the questions that's my favorite that I'm working with people at the moment about is, what do I believe and how could I be wrong? Right.
I love that one, Phil. That's great.
Such a question.
Yeah, I have often found myself being like, geez, how could I be wrong in that? And it's like that, and that's all came from you, man.
Yeah. And it's we get to a slide in a bit as well about, like, we believe certain things about ourselves. We believe certain possibilities for us are available or are not, as in, I'm not a good public speaker. How could I ever speak in front of a group of people on Zoom on a Saturday lunchtime? I could never, that's not possible for me. I'm not good enough for that or whatever. We hold on to these beliefs, but you could be wrong. You could build capability, you could develop the skills. It's the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset. Growth mindset is you can learn anything. You come into this world literally knowing nothing. You're so capable of anything. Not everything, but lots of things that you didn't think were possible for you are probably possible. And again, it's back to the questions that can shift your attention. So just to show you the power of this, right? What would a zebra dancing look like? Were any of you thinking about that before I asked the question? Right? No, right? This is what it looks like, right? I didn't
me last night at the bar.
That's all we're going to think about now.
This was taken in the limelight last night at 2 a.m. So there's two reasons I'm showing this picture. One is to show you how your attention shifted because of one question. When I ask you, who do you love and who loves you? Your attention always also shifts, right? Wasn't on that before. You were still so surprised at a purple backlit dancing zebra, right? Questions are powerful. We sometimes ask ourselves the wrong questions. Equip yourself with good questions that shift your attention to possibilities, not to fear, that reinforce what you could do, not what you're not capable of. And I can share lots of examples of questions. Rebecca, if you've listened to that podcast with Lenny, you may remember me saying, as a coach, like, I collect questions. I don't collect answers. I have the answers, but it's more useful to ask you questions so you come up with your own answers. That's part of the joy of coaching.
Yeah.
I don't want you to live my life. It's right for me. It might not be right for you. I'm not a cat person, but you might not like cats. You might prefer dogs. I have a cat in the house. You might not like that, right? Something as simple as that. So questions are powerful. Some really good journaling questions. I can send out afterwards, or I'm really happy to kind of send them out. I'll do a thing on Instagram if that helps.
Yeah.
And you can get them there too. There's some really nice ones. The other reason I share this, and Jim, I'm not sure if you'll know about bioenergetics.
No, Philip, no.
Amazing. Best day ever. So when I started paying attention to well-being, I don't have the books here, they're behind me, so I can't grab it. I was really curious how underpinning all well-being and performance was this physiological element. So I started looking at both when we're not well and when we're performing really well, how to kind of tap into these things. When we're not doing well, bioenergetics can make a massive difference. When we are, bioenergetics can make a massive difference. And more or less, I'm not going to do it on video because it's wild looking, but literally when zebras experience stress or trauma, so imagine being chased by a lion or a hyena, super stressful. Our stress, how am I going to stand in this queue in Primark to get my £2 knickers, right? Right? So the stresses are so different, but over time they compound and they get bigger. So when that happens lots of times, our bodies hold it. What zebras do is they so violently shake their bodies, literally the stress cannot be held in their body. So this is why there's a really good book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers.
I have that one.
Do you want to talk about it?
I haven't actually. I only started reading it. It was at the time I started reading it, I think it was just too full on for me at the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely something that I do plan on going back to, but it was just at the time, like I've done like a wee bit more. I'm more into reading and stuff now, but at the time it was just too full on.
And there's another good one, which is The Body Keeps Score, or Keeps Their Score.
Yeah.
You know about it, Jim?
I've got it right in front of me here. Yeah. Sorry, this one. Bessel van der Kirk, that one.
Yeah. An amazing book.
It's
So again,
great.
I read that before I signed up for the course with Elite.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I want to understand the body a little bit more. I literally want to move people so that they can perform to their best, whatever that looks like for them. And so dancing zebras, literally, dancing feels good. If you're not feeling good sometimes, like I'm here literally 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, sat at this desk. I'm stuck often. So actually what I've learned this week only is I'm not moving enough. I need to move so much more. We all need to move more. One way is dancing. One way is just shaking. There's some really cool videos on bioenergetics online. There's ways to do it with breathing. Wim Hof, why he's become so popular is because of how chemically those breathing techniques, I think it's pranayama, I think it's called, or some of those. That's a really good book as well. I should give Rory a shout out here. The top book here, this one, Breathe by James Nestor. Stunning book. I'll summarize it on the last slide that you won't have to read it. If you want to, you can, but you won't need to. But more or less, breathing and moving makes a massive difference to our ability to perform. And that's the invitation with this slide. Any thoughts or reactions?
I'm still looking at zebra.
I really agree with that though. Like the mobility and breathing. I find like I work in quite a high pressure job, so I sometimes find that stress overwhelms me. So taking a second to just breathe, or making it a point to get out of my chair once an hour, and then you come back and you're like, I go for a walk now on my lunch, and I find even though I could work through lunch, getting away from my desk for those 20 minutes makes me a lot more productive.
Likewise, my job is stressful. I came back to an email yesterday. I took lunch, it took an hour, and I came back to an email at 12:49. We have a global call at 1. We need this information. We haven't got it. And they had sent the email just after I took lunch. So I could have had that lunch break. So I had 11 minutes and I got it turned around within 14. But like that, I get it. And these things work. So it's just an invitation to test some of them. And I'll show you a breathing technique from that book, Breathe, by James Nestor. That's made a massive difference for me. And I now use it in cardio for running and stuff. And my performance is it's exponential how much better it is.
Do you notice a big difference, Phil, then from the implementing the breathe stuff?
I went running the other day, Rory, and I could have ran all day long. And it's
just
trail running, it's off road, like, so it's not easy.
You're going full pelt knowing you, Phil.
And it's just so good. I've never felt better. Like, it's unbelievable. So I live this stuff because I want to preach what I walk, not necessarily what I talk about. So I'm trying to be the experiment so that you can benefit from it. But it's made a massive difference, Rory. And again, thank you for introducing me to it.
Oh, dude, I just see even like the difference between your mouth breathing and breathing through your nasal capacities. Like it's something that you never ever would have realized. And then obviously the other stuff it talks about, you know, like if you breathe through your mouth, it alters the looking of your face and stuff. For me, I was a mouth breather throughout all my years, and I was looking back in the photographs and I was like, wow, like it was just mind blowing how it connected with me. And through changing, through breathing through my nose as opposed to my mouth, it's been night and day.
Yeah.
That's actually really useful because, well, I started doing some yoga at the end of, probably just at the end of like 2019. And then obviously we went into lockdown. But the big thing from yoga I find was actually the breathing. Do you know, just even, because even the guys, like whenever we'd be doing our mobility in the gym, be like, breathe, don't hold your breath. But actually I find now, like, I definitely would be more aware of like the breathing, but also like I would do some running and stuff now, but obviously a big thing that I try to focus on is like my breathing. So I sort of don't really listen to music or anything because I like to sort of be aware of like my breath. But definitely any tips, I would happily like take them, because that's the one thing that I do really like to try and improve on with my running is the breathing side of it.
Bring a tissue if you're breathing through.
I always have one.
Otherwise you're using your sleeve and it's not a good look. So, that's one of the tips. But it's interesting with the yoga, and I think it connects to the bioenergetics. When you hold a certain position, your body will do this kind of thing because it's at its kind of limit, and you're breathing into that. You're actually shaking. That's why it feels so good after it. That's why it feels so good after a run. You vibrated through your body and changed its state, and its state is held. So we hold what we've experienced, and you've shaken it out. And that's why you get the runner's high, because you release some of those things. That's why bioenergetics and those kind of things work. It's unbelievable. But yoga poses are actually that, and then paired with or complemented with the breathing makes a massive difference. Hence, it feels awesome. This is another thing that I've been making a shift in my coaching and working with people as well is, Rebecca, you're saying you have a stressful job. I'm sure you have a to-do list that just never ends. It's crazy, and we have one of them in our personal lives too. I have to, I don't know, hoover the house, clean the kitchen, clean the bathrooms, all these kind of to-do lists. But so I was working with a leader. She runs a 300-400 person business within where I'm working at the moment in City, and this was profound for her in the shift. So her to-do list, you can imagine, with 400 people under her, is insane. She'll never get through it all. Instead, what we focused on was actually, who do you need to be? Not what do you need to do, who do you need to be? So I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a friend, I'm a colleague, I'm I think a boyfriend, fiance. I don't know if the two go together. These are all the identities that I play. I'm also a coach. I'm also all these kind of things, right? But who I want to be is me at my best, playing those roles or identities. So if I want to be a brilliant boyfriend and fiance to my girlfriend, or fiance, I don't know what's the correct term anymore. We're supposed to be, I'll just call her my wife. If I do that, instead of coming up with a list of 10 things that I feel I have to do, if instead I focus on, actually, I'm just going to be a great boyfriend. What would a great boyfriend or husband do? They'd probably be thoughtful. They'd probably be kind. They'd probably try and help out a little bit more. So these are the things actually that are really important. And it doesn't necessarily dictate this list of stuff that I have to do, but instead it's me playing the role that I want to play to the best of my abilities. And so with that, some of the things fall off the to-do list. So we'll actually feel lighter, right? It's crazy, the difference. So I don't feel like I have to do these things. I get to do them because it's me playing these roles at my best. And Sean, I know that we've talked about this before as well around, I love how you talk about looking after your child, because you talked about this before around, you don't have to get up early and spend the time with them in the morning. You get to, and that's made a big difference for you, right? I think you're on mute. You might need to unmute, sorry.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just you're not getting up and say when you're going to work, sort of you have to get up and go to work with something you have to do. But if I get up and the wee man needs changed or something, it's right. I'll say to the missus, no, you do it, you get ready. I want to do this. I'm engaged, I'm there, I'm in the moment, and you just enjoy it. So even if you are tired from the night before, you look at him, he smiles, and it perks you up, it gives you this energy. So like you say, it's something you get to do, you feel privileged to do it, and then you count yourself lucky that you're able to do these things throughout the day. So I've adapted that to my training. If it can't be annoyed, then it's, well, I get to do this. Yesterday might have been a rest day and I was itching to train. So today, make the most of the training and, you know, reap the rewards, enjoy it, feel the endorphin rush and all this. So you can, once you apply it to one aspect of your life, it's easier to transfer over and apply it to different aspects. It really makes a difference all around.
Yeah. And like that for you, you want to be the best dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get to do those things rather than have to with a list of things that you may resent or actually not really connect with.
Yeah. And then it's like, what would a good dad do? X, Y, and Z. Okay, so go and do them. And, you know, it's, yeah, it just all sort of falls into place, really.
And again, it's back to, I don't have to go for 3 runs a week. I'm a runner. So it's just what I do.
Yeah.
Totally different. Runners
Yeah.
also pay attention to recovery. So I need to recover. I need to do my mobility. I need to fuel because I'm a runner. All these things, it's crazy the difference. And it just changes how you kind of engage with those things rather than kind of just feeling like you have to, you get to, and that feels different. So it could give you energy.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Phil,
sharing.
could you let Jim back in, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't see him in a waiting room or anything.
Okay, he just says he's having some connection problems and he's trying to get back in.
That's okay. I was hoping he was going to cover the next slide. Oh, here we go.
Is that him there?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think he's joining. Thanks, Megan. Here we go. Nice. Welcome back, Jim. You all right?
Thank you. Sorry, folks.
Don't be sorry. That's okay. Any other reactions?
That's talked about in Atomic Habits, though, isn't it? It's changing the example he gives of the smokers.
Yep.
I'm trying to quit and I'm not a smoker. It really makes a big difference. I definitely find that attitude of, because my previous job as well, like I just found like a lot of my lifestyle change had to come from my previous job because I was taking on too much, and it had a really big impact on me. And I kind of had to get to the point where I was like, well, I actually get to go to work. I had to stop dreading it so much.
Yeah, and it makes a massive difference then when it's difficult, but you reframe what the thing is. It's often not the thing, it's our thinking about the thing.
Yeah. And I found too as well when I coming with training, because I only joined hybrid about 6 months ago, like, but the reward has been massive for the length of time that I've been there. But I had to say to myself, like, what type of person do I want to be? Okay, I want to be the successful woman that runs and trains and fit and looks after her lifestyle. So I just started doing those things that type of person would do.
Yep. So it's identity, process, outcome, I think, is in Atomic Habits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe just a time check. I could talk all day. Are we good to go to 1? Good to go after that? I'm just want to get a measure from you all.
So about 2:30 would be my limit, Phil. I've got someone coming around.
Yeah, awesome.
Fab. Perfect. I could sit here all day.
Yeah, what about
Phil,
that?
could you make this like a weekly thing?
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting a real good pep talk for my run tomorrow. I feel like I'm really going to be like ready for this.
Gonna be so hyped up.
Hopefully it lasts until tomorrow then.
Well, it needs to, because tomorrow is my half marathon. So
Oh.
Well
right.
done, Fiona. Good luck.
yeah, I really need. Do you know what? I just haven't felt like, I know I can do it like 100%. Like I'll do it, and I'm like really stubborn anyway. I'll do it regardless, you know. But it's just, you know, and you haven't, like, I haven't felt mentally prepared for it. Running's like such a big mental challenge for me. Like even on my runs, sometimes I have to give myself pep talks to like keep going. You know, I'll never stop. But yeah, so tomorrow, I'm like, maybe this is really good timing.
Amazing. Good luck, Fiona.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck, Fiona. Yeah.
I did a cycle a couple of years ago for charity, and I cycled from Dublin to Rome. So we did about 120 mile a day for 2 weeks. And
Wow.
I found a big enough why to keep me going. And when you feel tired and that kind of thing, your why will keep you going. When you feel tired, you actually have roughly 40-45% it left in the tank. Your body is just cutting it off to protect you. So you can absolutely do it and more. Just enjoy it. The walk is the work. The run is the work. There's nowhere to get to, you know. Just enjoy it. Don't practice nasal breathing tomorrow, though. That's not the way to do it, right?
I was going to do what I know.
Just a disclaimer. Please don't test these things tomorrow.
Read the book first.
We've got an issue. Fiona is somewhere on the motorway. I don't know what's happening. Jim, I'm not sure how much of this you heard, but I'm happy to kind of go over it really quickly, or you probably heard enough of it as well. Just want to check.
No, I did miss a bit there, but look here, I'm going to be able to look at it again. I think we're recording, so I'm sure the guys would be happy enough to move on. I'm okay with that as well. I think I can pick it up and go back over it if that's okay.
Yeah, awesome. And really, it's just the importance of identity rather than to-do lists, and how when we do that, it can actually change how we look at our to-do lists, but it can also drop things off so it feels lighter. That's probably the summary.
Thank you, Phil.
This is another one, and this kind of relates to a couple of things, and I'm big on this one at the moment. In my development as a coach, I've started out with really basic models, and now I've gotten a little bit more advanced in how I make sense of the people that I'm working with. One of the transitions that I hear so many people like experiencing a tension with is when we're growing up, we adopt the behaviors or the expectations of others on us. So for example, my family are religious, so I've been religious. My friends expect me to go out partying at the weekend, so I go out partying at the weekend. All these kind of things. But there comes a point where sometimes there's a mismatch there. And actually, it's like, you know what? I'm just uncomfortable with this. This is not me. And I need to be more authentic, not seeking the approval or permission or validation or love from others. I need to turn that inside and actually be more authentic or true to myself for me, not for other people. And Rory and Sean, there's a couple of people that I'm working with on the course at the moment. And this is the shift that they're at. They're moving from this socialized form of mind, which is where we adopt everything that the group expects of us, family, friends, work, whatever. And then they realize, actually, I disagree with this. I disagree with that. Actually, that's not me. And so the tension is, but who am I? Because I've forgotten who I am. And this is why it's being who you are. It's such an invitation. Again, I could talk to this slide all day long. You probably know me by now well enough after spending, 53 minutes with me. You probably know I can talk all day. But we need people as they are and who they are, not carbon copies of everyone else or what other people expect of them. Some of us wait for one of those perfect conditions is, I want the permission from others that I care about before I'll take a stand and actually try and pursue my dreams of whatever it is that I want to do. Actually, I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to, whatever these things are, and I'm waiting for external approval or permission or validation, or I'm just waiting for somebody to say it's okay for me to change and progress and do better. Because sometimes our groups want us to be held down to their level because that's what they're comfortable with, and they don't want to ask the difficult questions of themselves. But actually the invitation is, we need you as you. Take back the pen of your own life and start authoring who you are and what's important to you. It's probably the best invitation I can give people. One of the best. Nasal breathing is good too. Rory, I'm not going to forget that, but it's really empowering to feel you are in control of your life. You don't have to meet other people's expectations, and that's okay. Maybe let me pause and just see any reactions or thoughts.
Well, yeah, you and I have been sort of talking about this kind of thing, Phil, in class and with a couple of other things. I'm sort of at the stage at the minute where I'm in two minds about leaving my job, sort of thing. Like the only thing that's really keeping me there at the minute, like I said to you earlier, is just the money. Because whenever I first started out, the place I'm working at matched the identity that I was holding at the time and the belief system. But then as the years are going on, I'm starting to become more attracted to other things that are more important to me. And the place I'm at the minute just does not match with that at all. And it's that kind of thing where it's like, yes, you might be getting, something out of it, like the money, but is that enough for you to live authentically? And I'm getting to the stage now where it's like, no, it's really, really not. So, and it's having the confidence and just having that ability to just go, look, you'll get through it. Just don't let the stress take over, because it's the stress then that holds you back. And other things, like you said, the approval of other people, you just have to learn to say, no, this is right for me and I'm going to do it.
And it's back to this slide then, Rory, as well, that becomes such a weight on us when we are feeling like we're being held back because it's not who we are to stay where we are.
Exactly. And then see, whenever you brought up those two slides, I've been like, that's the first thing that came to my head, where it was like, this was me last week or even a few days ago, but this guy over here, this is how I'm feeling at the minute.
I was coaching somebody not this Monday, the Monday before, and one of the things that she said was, because like I talk about these kind of things, and she said, it feels like I've been picked from one universe and just placed into another, because I'll never see things the same way again. And it's just wild. We're so held by these expectations of other people that are not even ours. And when we take that power back, I always think of it like a Sky remote. We take back the remote control for our own life, rather than, my sister went to the toilet one time with the remote control because she didn't want me to change the channel, and she dropped it in, right? But it's like, just take the remote control back. So she dictated what was on the TV. It's like, I don't want that on my TV. I want to watch The Office. I don't want to watch, I don't know, Friends, whatever it was. I'm just joking a little bit, but we let people do this in our own lives. And it's such an invitation to think, what if we started authoring and creating our own story? It's a difficult, it's the work. It's so hard, but it's so worth it. And Rory, you saying that you've never felt better, I think you said energized. It's because it's authenticity is, you don't need to double guess yourself before you do something. Oh, what will they expect of me? Or what do I need to do to make them happy? It's like, no, I'm just doing what feels right.
And it's the other things too. It's the other things too, when you talk about, I love that analogy you use about the muddy water, because for a long time it has felt like that. You're literally just you're in it, and it's just like, what's going on? Where am I? There's no real route out of this. But since I've made the decisions, everything's just, the road ahead is clear. And if anything, it's part of the belief system. It's like, I actually believe that it's possible again to actually do it.
Nice. What a place to be in.
Yeah, that's great, man. Really good.
Any other reactions? I could share another example, I guess, with this as well, which is sometimes people that have a preference for being more introverted. So there's like all these Myers-Briggs kind of differences between two kind of preferences or set of preferences. One is extroversion, one is introversion. There's others as well. People who are introverted or have an introverted preference will act when they're speaking in front of people, rather than someone like me who's just like fine making stuff up on the spot. I don't need to prepare as much as somebody who's more introverted will, because they'll want to get it right and they want to be prepared for whatever comes up. But what happens when they're acting as an extrovert, they're trying to act as somebody different from them, and it can often be disconnected from them enough that they feel, actually, I'm not being authentic, and people don't really know them as they are or for who they are. And it's the same with us. We put on this act to fit in, but actually the tension between the two things is uncomfortable, and it becomes uncomfortable, and it might not be true. We can stay forever meeting those needs of the groups and stuff like that and be happy, but some people will notice the tension, and that's where the invitation to take back the pen and the remote control becomes really important. Were you going to say something, Rory?
Oh, no, not this time.
That's okay. And I said I was going to get to the secret weapon of recovery and nasal breathing, and I was going to show you the science of it as well. So I'm really curious about lots of stuff. So I read lots of stuff. So I bang into things kind of by accident, but kind of by design as well. And I was banging into so many things around the connection between physiology and performance, but also around that mindset piece, that what I said to the company when I spoke to them was, I came home to their work, because more or less I had explored all these things and then found a book that more or less summarized what I was thinking about. And this is from the book. So the book is Coherence, The Secret Science of Brilliant Leadership. You don't need to buy it. This is it summarized, more or less. We get into a stressed state, which is this image here. So I think if I can zoom in, it might make it more helpful. Zoom in. So I'm talking about this one here, okay?
Sorry, what was the name of that book you just mentioned? Secret Science of what?
It's Coherence, The Secret Science of Brilliant Leadership. And Rebecca, it might not be the right book to read, but if you're interested in it, I can link to a TED Talk, and it's called Being Brilliant Every Day.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably what to look at first. And if you want to go into the science of it, then check out the book, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
Being Brilliant Every Day, there's a 2-part series, and you will see this chart play out live. This chart here on the right. This is heart rate variability. So typically you've like any kind of a watch, and it shows you your heart rate. You get your beats per minute. What this is in between the 2 beats, how variable is the electric signal between those 2 beats? Is it chaotic, or, back to the name of the book, is it coherent, which is smooth like this? When we're in a stress state, our heart rate variability, the difference between the 2 beats, goes chaotic. Rebecca, I didn't mean to bore you with that science.
Sorry.
We'll talk about science. I'm just kidding.
I was at the bar yesterday.
Oh, nice. So was my girlfriend. She came in at 4:30 this morning. So I'm glad I haven't yawned yet, but I reckon it's on the cards. And if one yawns, we all do. That means we all speak the same language, I think. When you encounter something stressful, our heart rate variability, and you see it in that TED talk, Being Brilliant Every Day, Dr. Alan Watkins. Our heart rate goes chaotic. The secret weapon is, I think it's nasal breathing, but mouth breathing is also fine for 5 in, 5 out. 5 in, 5 out seems to be the magic number. 4 in, 4 out, also fine. As long as it's the same number in, same number out, it actually makes no difference. Fiona, for running, I try to do 5 in, 5 out.
Okay.
Difficult, but you can get, it just takes a few kind of switches and it'll work.
I'm not doing that tomorrow, but I will try it another day.
Do that tomorrow. Do it on a 1K, like recovery run, nice and easy, really just slow and steady, and just test it.
You know what really helped me for that kind of stuff? Maybe just for my background, like you'll know as well, Phil, from playing music. For me, cause my background's drums, I would have timed my breathing just as it says there, rhythmically. So as I'm kind of getting into the pace, I would take a breath in, and every 8 steps, I would then do the opposite. So breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, out for another 8, and I would just do that. And kind of the same thing. You sort of kind of stumble into these things naturally, and then you find the source material and you think, oh wow, there's actually a reason behind why I'm doing this. You know, it just didn't, well, it came out from nowhere, but it just didn't come out from nowhere.
And like that, when I'm speaking like this and I'm speaking to senior groups all the time, I'm recovering while I'm listening. I'm doing this all the time. Nobody knows that I'm recovering. And I was working with, so there's a really accurate heart rate sensor. First Beat are the company that do Premier League kind of grade heart rate sensors for Premier League footballers, just to see how well footballers are recovered and performing and that kind of thing. One of my coaches, so I get coaching because I care about coaching. I get supervision because I care about becoming better at my craft. But one of my coaches was saying that she wore this First Beat sensor over a 3-day period, and she had a bonkers back-to-back day, or a couple of days over a weekend, where she was coaching all day long. So what would be expected is super stressed, no time to recover, really burned out, got to the end or whatever. After the 3 days, when they looked at the charts, they actually realized she was so present in those conversations and breathing properly that she was actually like recovering while she was having the conversation. So despite it burning her out, when we go back to that, let me just go back to this one, she wasn't even getting close to here because she was so in this comfort space, and she was doing that through her breathing. And I just found that unbelievable, because she had done this maybe a couple of years ago. I'm only catching up at this stuff now, but it's just profound. So we can be recovering right now, and our heart rate variability will thank us for it. So this is one of the secret weapons to recovery. 5 in, 5 out, 4 in, 4 out, doesn't matter. Same number in, same number out makes the biggest difference. Nasal breathing would be the 2.0. Test the 1.0. Just same number in, same number out. And this was the last slide, just because I could talk all day and I don't want to throw so much stuff that it doesn't be useful, but these were really useful, just signposts, just to encourage as well. This is a really nice New York Times article on the difference between worry, stress, and anxiety. We hold them differently, so therefore the antidote to them is different. For example, stress is physical. Anxiety is mental. Worry is a combination of the two. So the response to these things needs to factor that in. If it's stress, it's move your body. If it's worry, move your body and use questions to shift your attention. If it's anxiety, your body is trying to prepare you for something it finds difficult or challenging. It can be with your attention or to up your prep and build capability. We talked about Atomic Habits. I'm so glad some of you are enjoying it. Brilliant book. Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit was just before this. Also good. This is probably easier to read and nicer to read. And then if you ever want to gift yourself the most beautiful book, he's on Instagram, does some amazing stuff. Charlie Mackesy or Mackesy. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. I have no shame in admitting this. I read it one morning. It takes about 15 minutes to read it unless you're pausing on the pages, and I just teared up. My family live outside Dublin at the moment, so I haven't seen them since Christmas. And for all that we're going through at the moment, that was a gift. I've bought 15 of them since and sent them because of Amazon to people that I care about. Again, who could I send a note, gift, or sign of appreciation to? That's what I've used. I got teary. It's so emotional. We're under so much pressure. We need to be kind to ourselves. And hopefully what we've talked through today can help you kind of see that it's worth it. You deserve it. And here's some tips to help. And that's all I got. It's not all I got, but.
Sorry, see when you mentioned there, so for stress, move your body. For worry, move your body and ask questions. And then anxiety, what did you say? Sorry.
Anxiety is about your attention. So let's do this live, Rebecca, right? Just to make sure that I get this right. This one. It's a really nice article. There's one others I should have recommended, but I'll. So worry, 3 things to help your worries. Give yourself a worry budget. So you're only allowed worry Thursday, 3 o'clock for 10 minutes, right? You'll get to that point, you'll be like, oh, I have nothing to worry about actually, right?
Yeah.
When you notice you're worried about something, push yourself up to actually move. So sitting with worry is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
When we test something or move something, it makes a big difference. And write them down. So what happens is you will worry about stuff and you'll be in a certain state. If you revisit what you've written down in an hour's time, you will have become a different feeling, and you can then objectively look at these things that you're worried about and see it very differently. I journal every day. That's why I have a few beside me. So I see my thoughts objectively, and it helps me kind of make sense of it a little bit differently. Stress, 3 things: exercise, get clear on what you can and can't control. Don't compare your stress with anyone else's. Again, it's relative. It's not fair to compare. And anxiety, limit your sugar, alcohol, and caffeine. So I know when I have more coffee, I'm absolutely more liable to anxiety. So I'm aware of that. Check in with your toes. I mentioned wiggle your toes, right? It can help. And then when you're in the middle, talking yourself out of it won't help. You need to distract yourself. Could be listening to a beautiful piece of music, dancing, anything. There's lots of, so this is a really good article. I really like it.
Where is that? New York Times?
New York Times. Yeah. And the other one I would recommend is this. I only read this one last week. Adam Grant. Adam Grant has amazing books. If you ever want books, unbelievable author. Originals. This is brain dump now. I can't remember the other ones he wrote, but they're really good. This is a really good recent one. Around languishing. When I read this, I'm like, that's what I'm feeling sometimes at the moment. Difficulty to concentrate. You were going to say, Rebecca?
Languishing? What is that?
I have to log in to show you the article.
Because
I've looked at it already.
Can't look at it these days.
Languish is like this state of not knowing why you feel just meh.
Okay.
Unsure why you'd bother changing. And again, it's back to these kind of motivational and focus. It dulls those things. So again, back to clarity and back to one thing at a time are some of the antidotes that it talks about. I really liked it, and I've shared it with a couple of people. It's definitely helped.
What was that guy's name? Sorry, Phil.
Adam Grant. He's a Wharton professor. Brilliant author.
Would you recommend the New York Times for articles? At the minute, I read books.
Not necessarily.
I like, is there anywhere in particular you would recommend for articles? Because I like the idea of reading books, but obviously like sometimes it takes you a bit of time to get through them. So I would like the idea of maybe reading like an article a day, something short, snappy on top of that.
It probably depends what you want to learn. So
leadership, spirituality at the minute, probably. I don't know if You're into that.
Harvard Business Review. I subscribe to them because you're not limited then to 3 articles a day, and they send you out like that for corporate type stuff and leadership. They're quite good. There's some really good content, and it's quite applicable to that kind of corporate environment. For spirituality articles, I don't really know.
That's okay.
I'm not sure.
And have you any recommendations for podcasts? Because I've obviously listened to all of Lenny's already.
Again, it depends what you want to learn.
A lot. There's so many things, but just if there's anything in particular that you've listened to that you think might even be relative to today's conversation or anything like that.
Okay, that's so. See, now we're getting narrow. Specificity, right? This is always helpful. So 1 second.
Do you ever listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, Rebecca?
I actually don't, although my partner Tom does, and it has been very effective for his mindset. So it has. He's found it really beneficial. But my issue is, you know, like when you watch a series, I have the commitment that if I watch 1 or 2, I need to watch it all. So
Yes.
I would be like that with the podcast. I don't listen to just random ones. I feel like I need to listen to all of them, and I know that he has a lot. So it'd be a big commitment for me.
And they're 3 hours at least each as well, right?
They're so
Yeah.
long, so long.
I'd prefer something that's maybe like an hour an episode, not something as long as that.
See this one, The Knowledge Project, Shane Parrish. He's a really clear thinker. He studies Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's kind of business partner. It's very good. I really like his stuff. The other one that like I would like to live up to is this guy, Naval.
Okay.
Naval Ravikant is his name. He's a Silicon Valley investor. And he is so pure in his thinking because of how much work he's done. I actually bought this for myself recently. I had to hide it from my girlfriend because I'm not allowed more books. But this is somebody that wrote about all his kind of tweets and stuff. So he does these amazing tweet storms. One is probably the best and most quoted of his is How to Get Rich Without Being Lucky. And it's just basic principles and it's so good. So I really like him and his stuff. It's very pure. And I'm getting closer to that because I don't really want noise. I want what works. And that doesn't come from noise. It comes from signal. So that comes from letting that muddy glass of water settle. He more or less said that he's got to inbox 0 by just spending about 30 minutes a day thinking about nothing. Whatever comes into his mind, just like, okay, store away. Just like that.
Thank you. I've made notes on them, so I'll have to have a look for them.
I really like him. Any other, maybe 2 questions. Any surprises? And what will you do differently because of the conversation?